All right, since we are at the top of the hour, I will go ahead and kick things off. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Kevin Velasquez, and I am a Senior Marketing Manager here at NAIFA. And welcome to today's webinar hosted by NAIFA's Talent Development Center. If you didn't know, the Talent Development Center is one of NAIFA's 5 centers of excellence, with the TDC focused on giving you the best tools and programs you need to help you grow professionally. So if you find you really liked today's webinar, and you want more content like this, like previously recorded webinars, articles, and more, you can visit tdc.naifa.org. And for today's webinar, we have Ashleigh Hammad and Scott Kirby of Abacus live here to give you the latest update on life settlements. So I don't want to keep them or you waiting. So without further ado, I will turn the virtual floor over to Ashleigh and Scott.
Thanks, Kevin, and good afternoon, everybody. We've created a presentation that I think will touch on most kind of interesting topics regarding settlements, a little bit about where the market sits today in terms of policy values, and a quick market and industry update, a little bit about why agents and your clients should be considering life settlements, who Abacus Life is, a little bit about who qualifies for a settlement, how we are using simplified underwriting to help us with our pre-pricing of all of our cases. We'll show you some of the technology things we can produce in terms of policy evaluations and audits. And then Ashleigh will end the presentation with a couple case studies. If you have any questions during the presentation, please chat them in, and we'll try to answer them as we see them. If not, we'll save some time at the end. This whole presentation may last 40 minutes, so we won't take a lot of your either lunchtime you have today or your morning time today. So to get started, the current life settlement marketplace, I think in a word, we would say it's still somewhat limited. To the right, you'll see a bar chart. Each year, Conning Research study, they put out all sorts of different research data reports. One of them is the annual life settlement report. And clearly we can show that the actual size of our marketplace as it relates to the gross market potential is very, very underserved. There's just such a little market penetration, less than 2% actually of what Conning thinks is what the total marketplace could be in terms of billions of dollars. And we'll go through some numbers also in a few minutes. A lot of that is just low consumer awareness. A lot of clients and consumers that we have just are not aware that life settlements exist. And we think that's probably one of the driving forces of why there's such low market penetration. Also, I think there's just low financial professional awareness. I think a lot of us know what life settlements are, but we get kind of busy in our practices, and we seldom stop to think, hey, would this client benefit from a life settlement? We know that very few policies are ever reviewed for a settlement. We'll talk a little bit about why that's important. But I think that's one of the main reasons that we aren't talking to our customers enough about would the secondary market be a better alternative than either surrendering or canceling a policy. I know from our perspective, it's just it's an intensive valuation process. There is a lot that goes into determining what the fair market value of a policy is. Ashleigh will highlight a couple things that we do at Abacus that make that process different. So, I mentioned market awareness. Abacus conducted a series of focus groups a couple years ago, and we spoke to seniors age 65 and older, in addition to their advisors in 2 different focus groups. And it's funny when we ask people, hey, what do you think your biggest asset is in your life? If you had asked me, I probably would say my house or my car, or maybe a piece of artwork that I own. And that's not unsimilar to what a lot of people would also answer. Most people think their biggest asset in your life is their home, and that's not the wrong answer. But less than 1% of Americans view their life insurance as an asset, which is funny because that's probably one of the most expensive things they have in terms of a value is their life insurance. But so many people do not think of life insurance as an asset. We know that so many policies are forfeited back to the insurance companies every single year. $200 billion of life insurance is surrendered each year. According to data, I think it's NAIC or the Incal fact book. Last 2 decades, there's been almost $15 trillion of face value either lapsed or surrendered. There's such a big number of policies that just never pay out. And in doing our focus groups and study groups, we know that 90% of seniors would have considered a life settlement if they knew the option existed. Lapse-based insurance study issued in 2016 suggested that 74% of term policies and 76% of universal life policies sold to seniors age 65 never pay a claim. So when you consider very few people know that the market exists, very few people think that their life insurance is an asset, we think that this marketplace has so much more potential. Clearly, we know that we have an aging population. I mean, we all know these data points. There's 10,000 people turning 65 a day. So there is a large marketplace for life settlements. We also know that there's kind of a growing retirement savings gap that we continue to be reported on between Bloomberg and Business and Barron's. This is not a underreported story that so many Americans, as they retire, just have not saved enough money for their retirement. We know that there are so many more Americans forced to stay in the workforce. So, where does a life settlement come in? Do life settlements offer our aging seniors a way to kind of help monetize their retirement? We think the answer is yes. So, why should agents recommend life settlements? Well, we know that your clients are interested and they need professional help. We know there's TV commercials every single day. Our clients are seeing these TV commercials. They're calling the companies, and they have a strong interest in the secondary market. Who better to assist them than the insurance professional who wrote the coverage? We know that life settlements is a complement to annual portfolio reviews and audits. We know that we oftentimes meet with our customers and we want to talk about their life insurance. Are their insurance policies being funded the right way? Do they still need the coverage? Did they get maybe a lapse notice they were not expecting? Were there COI increases? So we're always talking to our clients about alternatives. Do you want to pay more for your policy? Do you want to reduce the coverage? Do you need different kind of coverage? We think that life settlements really can complement your annual reviews and audits. Listen, the NAIC even recommends that life settlements can be a solution for long-term care financing. And it actually does satisfy a number of current suitability and best interest standards. That's why agents should be thinking about and recommending life settlements. Well, why would a client consider a life settlement? Well, we talked about a couple already. If a policy is at risk of lapsing, why wouldn't they at least want to know what their secondary market value, what their true fair market value, and guess what? Their asset is worth. A lot of major carriers raised the cost of insurance in the last 5 years. What happens to policies when you do that? It changes and alters how long you can keep paying a certain premium out to retirement or age 90 or age 95. So, when clients are getting grace notices and lapse notices, it's probably because they had cost of insurance increases. At Abacus, we designed a whole marketing and branding concept around a term rescue strategy. There's so much term coverage that lapses every single year. Why would a client age 70 ever not think about a life settlement if they're at the end of their term? About 10% of our book each year are term policies that we purchase. So term policies can be purchased. A lot of times policies are just no longer needed or required, whether it be a key man coverage or estate planning. Oftentimes we are brought in to do the policy reviews alongside a company if they are considering no longer keeping a key man policy. Certainly, as I discussed earlier, with a growing retirement savings gap, settlements can be a solution to help fund retirement and even healthcare expenses. So both as advisors and as our clients, we all should be thinking about, is a life settlement the best thing for us? We think the answer is yes. So oftentimes people ask, I hear the term life settlement, I hear the term viatical settlement. What do these terms mean? Really, they're both the same transaction. We think of life settlements as kind of geared towards more older clients, high net worth type clients, anyone over the age 65. But viatical settlements are still a big part of our business. Typically, a viatical settlement, just by definition, would be someone who's coping with perhaps a terminal illness. A lot of times, these transactions can be tax-free. We've got some reports that kind of support that. But at the end of the day, the purchaser, which is Abacus, we become the owner and the beneficiary of the policy. We assume all future premium payments. The clients would receive their cash settlement and they can spend the money any way they want. In some cases, we can also offer retained death benefit. Ashleigh will show you a couple of case studies where our options they include both cash and retained death benefit. So a little bit about Abacus. We have been in business since 2004. We've got a staff of just over 60 people in Orlando, Florida. We were ranked this year as one of the top workplaces in Central Florida. Since 2015, we have purchased just over $3.3 billion of life insurance, giving consumers over $750 million of settlements. We offer coverage on each settlement case that we purchase, full background due diligence work on every case that we buy. We are probably one of the larger, more scaled up direct buyers in the marketplace. In fact, last year when the annual reports came out, so every year the Deal, which is a publication that reports on different industries, they publish a report and they compile data from all of the buyers of the marketplace. Abacus, although we were ranked as the second buyer based on the number of policies we purchased, the percent that we paid per face was the largest of the top 7 buyers. What does that mean? It means that our pricing model is the most aggressive pricing model in the business. Our pricing model is more kind of client driven. And part of our pricing model also is part of the fact that we pay out 8 times existing cash value. Think about that for a second. 8 times something. 8 times what your cash value is if you surrendered it is a very large number. So we're very proud of our pricing model. We're very proud of the data that is published each year. Abacus Life is one of the top buyers when it comes to how many policies we buy year over year, but we also have one of the best pricing models out there. Where do we do business? Really everywhere. We're licensed all across the country. In almost all these states, the life producer can also participate in the settlement. In most cases, a life producer can either extend their current license to do settlements. We are able to help with all the licensing that you guys need, but we are licensed everywhere except Alaska. I'm not sure how many advisors are on the call today from Alaska, so we apologize to all of our Alaskonians who may do a settlement, but we are licensed everywhere else. We take due diligence and suitability very seriously at Abacus. Mick Law is a very large third-party due diligence law firm that we asked to kind of do a review of our company. We pass their due diligence requirements. Some of the names on some of the clients on my one page there can demonstrate some of the larger companies that they've done some work with. We work very closely with broker dealers. We take compliance very seriously when it comes to broker dealers and suitability. Every case that we buy that's a variable, we perform a suitability questionnaire. So we take due diligence very seriously at Abacus. As I mentioned, we're licensed in all the states. We carry E&O, and we will help every advisor when it comes to settlements to make sure that they're licensed also. At this point, I'll let Ashleigh kind of take over who qualifies and a little more about the marketplace from the consumer point of view. And Ashleigh, I'll advance the slides when I think you're done.
Okay, no problem. Hello, everybody. We're excited to be here. I'm going to go over probably a few slides just to give you an idea of who to look for in terms of clientele in your book of business and what policies typically qualify best. And we'll go through some case studies and some examples of what's worked for us in the past. So in terms of policy types, ULs typically work the best, but we can buy any type of policy from term to whole life. And we can buy some group depending on that scenario, but typically the face amounts need to be a minimum of 100K, and there's no maximum really. We could go to 50 million or higher if need be. If the clients are healthy, you're probably going to need to have an age range of mid to upper 70s. And if they are younger, they're going to need more health impairments in order to qualify. And we can obviously look at any age with critical or terminal illnesses. There's no minimum age there. So as Scott touched on earlier, the majority of our book is ULs, but we do focus on term conversions as well as a small percentage of whole life. But our term conversion or term rescue program is really something that we're seeing more and more of as we continue to educate advisors and clients of this option. And I actually have probably about 5 or 6 in closing right now with younger folks ranging from 60 to 70 years old. And the clients had no intention of keeping that policy in force. They were going to let it go. And thankfully, the advisor brought it up, and now it's found money for the client. The agent is the converting agent, and it's a win-win for everybody. So a really unique program, and that we're excited to see continue to grow in our book. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with settlements, but to give you a little bit of background on our industry, probably for the last 18 years, there hasn't been a ton of changes in terms of how we can streamline the process and make it easier for everybody. Most of the time, the process starts with us doing pre-pricing, and then we have to order APSs and fully underwrite. And a settlement can take anywhere from 30, 60, 90 days, when ultimately the client and you just want to know, how much is this thing worth? Does it have value? Is it worth taking the dive and actually going down that 30, 60, 90-day process to get something at the end? So a couple of years ago, we started looking at how we were approaching this. And we really wanted to change how we did it so that we could streamline it and make it faster and easier. So we really simplified how to submit a case. And it comes down to, if you can get me an illustration to age 105, or if it can't go that far to 95 or 100, the date of birth, and then a brief medical summary of the client's health, we can actually provide feedback in 2 business days or less to you. And people love that because we actually are able to go into our database with the information you provide, whether that's verbal. We also have a medical questionnaire, which is similar to a part 2 of an insurance app. We can also do prescription drug searches. But either way, this pie chart is actually our impairments broken down individually from our database. And when we have the illustration, the client's age, and their main impairment, we can actually compare that to similar individuals in our profile to see what the actual life expectancy would be. And it really helps us get our crystal ball in terms of pre-pricing more accurate. So this is what that screen looks like. So if we put in the client's age, gender, and primary impairment, it will tell us that, let's say, an 85-year-old male with CAD, who the best life expectancy underwriting company would be, and what the average life expectancy may be for that individual. So it really helps us narrow down and provide the best pre-pricing feedback for you. And that way you can take that information back to the client, give them the expectations, and see if it meets everybody, if everybody's on the same page. And if so, then we'll take that deep dive. So I mentioned a medical questionnaire maybe 2 slides ago, which is similar to a part 2 of an insurance app. This is what that document looks like. Any of the documents you see today, we can actually white label these for your firm. So Abacus will be more of a back office support for you. But if you provide this along with the date of birth and the illustration, we can actually provide a valuation on the policy in less than 2 business days for you. So again, this medical questionnaire can be white labeled for you, but it just allows us to get a better medical snapshot of the client's health, and we can put that and compare it to our database. We have the easiest application process in the industry. This is our full app. And if you are the writing agent, this policy release form can actually be thrown out because you can get the illustrations for us in any policy docs that we need. So it really comes down to a questionnaire, the HIPAA, and then the medical questionnaire, which we talked about already. So we simplified it and wanted to make it as easy as possible for everyone. So one of the other tools, I actually get a call about this service more often than the settlement side, because as Scott mentioned, you all already do a great job of doing annual policy reviews or quarterly policy reviews. And what we've been able to do is we can now take our pre-pricing and turn that into an actual policy audit and valuation report for you to use to complement what you're already doing. So again, with just the illustration, date of birth, and any known health impairments, I can actually generate this report for you in a couple business days. This can be white labeled as well, and it gives you a detailed analysis of all the hard costs associated with the policy, but it also gives you actuarial data that will show you how the policy may perform with life expectancy information. So a lot of times I'll have an agent call me and say, hey, I've got a meeting next week with Mr. Smith. Can you please run a valuation for me? And they will use that to complement what they're already talking about and doing anyway. And in addition to that, it helps educate the client on the settlement option. So I mentioned white labeling marketing materials. We have a ton of marketing items that we can do for you and your firm, from brochures to letters to the application. And one thing that a lot of agents really love is our policy valuation calculator, which we'll show you on the next page. But if you ever want us to do anything like this for you, we have an entire marketing team. All we need is a high resolution logo. And we can pretty much generate all of this information for you within, I would say, 24 to 48 hours. But on the next slide, I'll show you the calculator, which is super, super cool. This actually accesses the database that we have, and this can be white labeled for your firm as well. It also acts as a lead generator. So a lot of my agents love this tool because all the client has to do is put in their gender, age, policy type, face value. And as soon as they click calculate, it will actually come up with a valuation of what the policy could be worth based on different health profiles. And again, when they do this, it acts as a lead generator. You'll get an email in your inbox that says, hey, this person just filled this out. You may want to call them. And this is very surface level. A lot of times this is really about starting the conversation, piquing interest in the settlement side, but it's a really good tool to use just to, create value around the secondary market. So we have a couple case studies, and I tried to pick several different scenarios. So in this scenario, we're dealing with a hybrid option, meaning the client they could have taken all cash, or they could have taken a lowered cash amount with a retained death benefit that went away after a certain amount of time. So in this scenario, we have an 84-year-old female with a $1.5 million UL policy. Her life expectancy was about 4.5 years, and she had some issues with lung cancer, diabetes, pulmonary disease. And after we did our valuation, we were actually able to exceed the cash significantly. So the cash value in the policy was at $137,506. We were able to give her two options. We offered $590K all cash or $570K cash with $250,000 of retained death benefit for the first 2 years. The agent made $30,000. In these scenarios where you see, we refer to this as our graded RDB option, meaning If we have a family that we're working with who maybe our underwriting, our life expectancy reports are showing 4.5 years, but the family may say, I don't think mom is going to make it 2. We don't want this to ever be a situation where they sell the policy and then come back to you as the agent and say, why the heck did you tell us to do this? So what we'll do is we can work in what's called a graded or vanishing RDB option, meaning if mom dies in year 1 or 2, they get an additional payout. And anytime we structure a settlement like that, it protects the family, it protects you as the agent, and everybody's happy. So we really try to think outside of the box with our settlement options because not every family is the same. So here's a term conversion option. We had a 72-year-old male with a $500K term conversion. The premiums were about $24K, and it went to age 100. He had a little bit, probably closer to a 10-year life expectancy, but there was obviously no cash. But the life settlement, we were able to give him $50,000 plus the reimbursement of the quarterly premiums. In these scenarios, you can take comp on the settlement and you can do the conversion. In this case, the agent took $10,000. But a lot of agents, depending on how big of the case, they may just forego all the comp altogether and let the client have that, and then they'll be the converting agent. And then we also had a case with a 92-year-old female with a $500K UL policy. She had no maturity extension on her policy at all. So obviously they were screeching up to having some serious maturity risk. And we had about a 4-year life expectancy for her. The cash was $68K, and we were able to offer her $100,000. The agent took about $20,000, and the client got the net. But again, this was a scenario where, we look at risk a little bit differently, and we tried to find a home for something that, may otherwise the client may have let it go. So we've got plenty of more case studies, and all these case studies, I like to say, are real cases from real clients that we've worked with. And I know that we've got an arsenal more if anybody would like these. And we can also send these to you to use in marketing materials if you need.
So, Kevin, we promised the group a brief presentation. This is the last slide. I do just want to kind of go back a couple and remind everybody what Ashleigh was talking about. The process of determining if your policy has any value at all, we've made it very, very easy. If you have an in-force illustration and really this medical questionnaire, that's all we need. If we have these two things, we're able to deliver an offer that's going to be probably 90% of the final valuation once we do the deep dive. But there's nothing better in terms of meeting with the client to discuss if the secondary market is the best thing for them than to kind of walk through this step. This is a very easy process. So we encourage everyone, if you think you've got a case, it may just be one that you're unsure of, give us a call. It's very easy for us to, even if we just have an illustration or just a client meeting in a couple of days, give us a call. We're able to give you an idea if the policy can work at all in the secondary market. Our application process, as Ashleigh mentioned, is the easiest thing out there. And we'll do everything else. If we order medical records, we'll be happy to give you a copy of the records. If we order illustrations, we'll be happy to give you a copy of that as well. So, Kevin, that was really kind of all we had planned today. We're more than welcome to or happy to take any questions that the group may have. But here's our contact information. We will be at your conference in November in Washington. Ashleigh won't be able to make it, but I'll be there with one of our other team members. So we look forward to hopefully meeting some of you folks in person. But Kevin, we can wrap it up if you want to open the floor for any questions at all.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Scott and Ashleigh. Yeah, the conference that Scott was referring to is NAIFA's National Leadership Conference happening in Washington, D.C. From November 13th through 15th. Doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat right now. So just to reiterate what Scott and Ashleigh said, feel free to contact them if you do have any questions that pop into your mind afterwards, or you can email us at tdc@naifa.org with any questions. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent out to all registrants as well as these presentation slides. So if anything pops up then, feel free to reach out and let us know. But let's see, something did pop up. Someone did ask, how about kids policy? If either Scott or Ashleigh want to take a stab at that.
Go ahead, Ashleigh.
Oh, it's okay. You go.
For a minor, probably not. We've had agents ask about those types of policies. Listen, I suppose if the kid if it's a child 18 or older, possibly, but in terms of a kid's policy, I can't imagine it. It must be maybe like a burial policy or something like that. That wouldn't qualify for a life settlement.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, then we'll let everyone get out a little bit early. Like I said, keep an eye out for an email with all of these presentation slides and recording of the video and all of that stuff. And thank you, Scott and Ashleigh, for your time today. And that concludes today's webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kevin.